Hi, Facebook.
Howdy, howdy.
How's everybody doing?
Remember when you wave, remember, hand below the tiara.
Oh, below the tiara. I didn't realize
hand below
that.
the tiara. And you wave like this.
No pits?
Yeah, no. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. That's how you get the breeze going in there.
So welcome to all our Facebook livers. We are about to start the show.
Time to share. Everybody share.
It's only before the show starts that I do my talking chip clip.
It's so realistic.
So realistic, I know. And you can barely see my lips move.
If you put the mic at the right spot, you won't see your lips move at all.
Yeah, it's like, Mr. Science Theater 3000. Okay, we ready?
It says something about your psyche that's what pops in your head.
Yeah, I think of Crow and Tom Servo. And that's just wrong.
What was the radio program that was all weird stuff? The
Dr. Demento show?
There was Dr. Demento, and then there was a Flower Hour or something like that.
King Biscuit Flower Hour.
King Biscuit Flower Hour. All kinds of stuff.
We are ready when you are, sir. It's March 29th, by the way, as we're doing this show. Well. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program known as Smokin' and Toastin'. It's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by our good friends at B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. And I thought our buddy Jeremiah from B&B was going to be able to join us for the show, but he wasn't able to after all. So rain check from Jeremiah. And he will return to join us sometime soon, I am sure. Actually, we were overdue to set up another show at B&B and do that live from his smoking area upstairs. That's what I call it, the smoking area.
We haven't been there in a while.
It's been too long. Yeah. It's been too
and the
long.
weather's way too nice right now here in Houston.
Oh, man. Weather is great. And, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be enjoying that fine Los Angeles weather as well as we do a show live from Los Angeles. That's coming up in 2 weeks. In fact, I can let you know that we will skip next week's show because we'll be traveling. And then we'll be in Los Angeles for show number 83, which will be coming up in 2 weeks from today. So welcome to show number 82. We're going to be talking about black market cigars in New York City.
I can't believe you're making me fly out to L.A. for work.
I know. It's tough. I demand a lot out of you, don't I?
You're going to make me have cigars.
Yeah, have cigars, drink, you're
the worst.
In Los Angeles. Somebody's got to do it.
Black market
cigars in New York City. It's a real possibility. We'll talk about it and tell you why. Plus, Cuban cigar sales have surged, and the Chinese are responsible. We'll tell you about that coming up. And I'm just gonna throw this out there: how you can become a whiskey expert. 3 simple tips to make you a whiskey expert.
Is that drink, and
drink again? Yes, that's exactly
the 3 Ds of becoming a whiskey expert.
No, we'll tell you. We'll show you how to at least pass yourself off as an expert on your way to expertism. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good thing to want to do. How are you? Did you have a good week?
I had a great week.
Yeah. That's one of the cool things about doing the show as late in the week as we do it, because we generally do the show on Thursdays. So by this time, we're most of the week is behind us.
Well, beyond that, too. I mean, we live in Texas, so it's spring for about 30 seconds, then it's just summer at that point.
And then it's really already just about summer. Yeah, it really is. Did you smoke anything interesting this week?
I did. I smoked a fantastic cigar, actually. Let me pull that up right here.
Mm-hmm.
I had Ypsilanti Cigars Privé.
Cigars what?
Privé. Prive. Not privy.
Not privy.
That would be different. That would be
so what is Cigars Privé exactly?
I don't know. It's one of their lines. I don't know a whole lot about it other than here I found it at my humidor. I thought to myself, that is the cigar I'm going to smoke.
Don't you just enjoy when you find something in your humidor and go, I know nothing about this. Let's light it up.
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes going into a cigar without a pretense is actually a good thing.
Right.
And I will say, though, that's not entirely true with this because I haven't had a bad Ypsilanti.
Yes. This is kind of a favorite brand for you, isn't it?
Man, the MJ12 is a go-to for me.
Yeah.
It's one that I'll buy almost anytime I see it just to have one or two in my humidor just because I'm going to enjoy it, and I know I will. So it's definitely a go-to. That whole line of cigars is so good. So this one I picked out because it was sitting in my humidor and it was staring at me. And so let me start it from the top here.
Okay.
The aesthetics on this, light to
Relative.
medium brown, solid, firm construction, slightly oily. Pre-light sniff is earth, leather, nutty. Kinda. Yeah, kind of. It was good. The pre-light draw was very chocolatey. Milk chocolate, leather, spicy, creamy kind of flavors going on. It was actually very complex even before I lit this cigar.
That's really interesting.
So I really was kind of savoring that. That's why we have so many adjectives there, is because I just kept enjoying it.
She kept pulling more and more out of it. Yeah.
And that's always a blast. That's a fun when you have time to sit down and really do that. The initial light on this thing was pretty spicy, actually. I mean, it was like, pow. It was like, this is not what I was expecting.
So you got some pepper up front.
Pepper and just spice in general. It was like a bomb.
Wow.
When I lit it. I mean, just boom. And I thought, wow, okay, this is way more intense than most of the Ilusiones that I've had, because they're usually in the medium range. Some of them are closer to full, but I've never had a spice bomb like this from Ilusione.
Interesting.
I stuck with it. The spice settles down a bit in the first third. The creaminess shows up with hints of white chocolate, because the chocolate was just a little different, a little off from what you normally get for chocolate and mocha kind of flavors. So I kind of nailed down some things. I really had time to sit down and enjoy this. So I got a lot of white chocolate. Macadamia was the nuttiness that I was getting.
Really?
Yeah, that kind of, the shell part of that macadamia that has that little astringency is kind of good.
Well, you were really paying attention to this. It must have been like an absolute flavor.
It got my
explosion.
attention when that spiciness showed up at the beginning, and I thought, wow, this was so complex before I lit it, and then it just hit me with the spice bomb. I was like, okay, there's got to be more flavors under this spice. And when it settled down, all these things just started bubbling up to the top. So it was really interesting. Leather and earth were other things that I got out of that substantially. The second, third, the spice leveled out, much more leather and creaminess out of it at this point in time. Turned into kind of classic cigar with some complexity in it. It was really nice. So this cigar was a little bit of a ride. The ash stayed on till almost the halfway point on this thing before it dropped. And you'd laugh because when I'm sitting down and I'm doing a cigar and I'm going, okay, I'm going to review this cigar, I will actually smoke it so gently so that I see how long I
you can hold the ash.
So I'll be leaning forward, smoking it. Anyway, we have a blast with it. So the ash finally dropped off. The third of this cigar, the last bit of the cigar, the spice picked up again, but it kept all of the previous flavors, the leather and nutty flavors, that macadamia kind of nutty flavor really picked up substantially with it and kept up with the spice a lot. The tail end of the cigar might have been actually a little spicier than I generally would prefer. However, because I had already been through this initial spice bomb of it, and then it settled down and started building back up, I think I was already a little attuned to it and really kind of enjoyed it at that point in time for what it was. I enjoyed the cigar. I would buy it again. It's my belief, I don't have it firm on here, but I think that this is about a $10 cigar from Ilusione, $10 to $12 cigar. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 to 5. It's what I'd want when I pay for a cigar. I love Ilusiones in general. The 5 if it's a $10 cigar, 4.5 if it's a $12 cigar.
Right.
It's definitely worth that $10, and I enjoyed the flavor ride on it. It is a little spicier overall than I generally would go for,
but you dug it.
But
though.
I did.
Yeah.
Try it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I like Illusion.
Ilusione. It's fun to say too.
Yes, it is. And I'm not even sure if I say it right. But
there are certain words that are just fun to say, like
yes, there are.
Like Chapultepec.
I don't know what that means. David Letterman used to say, "I just like saying Chapultepec."
I didn't know that was one of those things. That's awesome.
I had a pretty interesting one this week, and one that I guarantee I have not reviewed before, and that was largely because I had to learn how to pronounce the name of the cigar, because I realized that I was calling it something that wasn't correct. I was calling it Gispert or Gispert, but it's actually Gispert.
Gispert
Is how you say it. Gispert, and you pronounce the T on the end.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, a Gispert Intenso by AJ Fernandez. Now, here's what's really interesting that's happening is AJ Fernandez, in addition to having his own line of cigars that include some really, really good smokes, he's starting to blend for everybody. Like he's doing collaborations. He's done them with Monte Cristo. He's done them with H. Upmann. He's done them with Hoyo de Monterrey. And now he has done a cigar with Gispert. And Gispert's not a very well-known line of cigars. It's not one you hear a lot about. And I've had Gisperts before. They've been good, but not something that I really remembered all that clearly. So I thought it'd be interesting to see what AJ's take on the Gispert cigar would be like. And so I unwrapped this baby, and it was a beautiful cigar. Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, but darker Maduro, with a Nicaraguan binder, and Dominican and Nicaraguan fillers. A dark beauty pre-light, rich, and chocolate. Chocolate. Really,
was it chocolatey?
It was. I would say that it was, in fact, chocolatey. Yes. Once I lit it, though, it was, there was a marked sort of earthiness. That was the first thing that I noticed once it was lit, and then toastiness, leather, and nuts. It started out medium bodied, and got all the way to the full by the time I got to maybe the last third or so of it. So it was again, to quote you from yours, it was a pretty good ride. As you would expect from AJ Fernandez, particularly from his more recent blends, there was quite a bit of pepper and spice to this. Not too much, but the cigar stayed complex all the way through, so the pepper didn't overpower, the spice didn't take it over, but there was quite a bit in there. I probably only smoked 2 or 3 Gisperts ever, but this was by far the best that I've had. By far. One thing I noticed about it was if I puffed too fast, it would smoke a little hotter. It would get a little bit bitter. But all I had to do is just kind of slow down,
lay off it a little bit.
Yeah, and it would come right back, and the cigar kept up its tasty blend. About a $7 cigar. At that price, I would put it at a 5.5, just a little bit better than I was expecting. And again, at $7, I find is that sort of like almost the magic zone, like where you can get some really, really great stuff, but you can also get some stuff at $7 that you're like, why did they price it this high? It's not worth it, you know. So this was the first. It was really, really great, and probably could easily have been a $9 or $10 cigar. So,
and for those of you who just tune in and aren't sure what our price to quality ratio
what
is,
that's all about, yeah,
right. So our scale is 1 to 10, and 5 is the middle of that scale, means you get exactly what you're paying for. That's a great rating for a cigar.
A 5 is a great rating.
Right.
It means
whether it's a $3 cigar, you get exactly what
every
you pay for. That's fine. Whether it's a $20 cigar, you get exactly what you pay for. That's still a great rating.
Right, because the 5 for the $3 cigar, that's not as good a cigar as the one that's a $20 cigar.
Right.
You got a 5,
but you got exactly what you paid for, and you're happy with it.
Yes, exactly.
If it falls below that 5, you're getting a little less than you wanted for the price.
Like maybe that's a little overpriced.
Then that cigar is smoking better than you'd expect. For instance, if you've got a $7 cigar and you rate it at 7, that's a $7 cigar that's smoking like what you'd expect from a $12 or $13 or somewhere. You know,
absolutely.
It's all subjective, but that's kind of how it works.
That's how we try to do it anyway. So, all right, coming up, a lot of cool things on the show. We'll talk to you about black market cigars in New York City. We'll talk to you about ways that you could become a whiskey tasting expert. We'll give you the expert tasting tips. Plus, do we have some beers to taste today? Victory has a new IPA, a Forefront IPA. We'll be tasting that on the show. We'll be tasting a Unity Vibration Bourbon Peach Kombucha Wild Ale. Please don't ask me to say that again.
Say that 3 times fast.
And from Avery Brewing, we'll be tasting, and I thought of you when I got this, Ian, the Reverend. It's a Belgian-style quadruple ale.
Oh, you know I love it. And Avery makes such good stuff.
Yep. Plus some XO Reserve Cask rum from Mount Gay. So we have lots to do and lots to taste on the show as we do episode number 82. It's Smoking and Toasting. We'll be right back.
Four D's. Drink, drink, dodge, and drink.
A, drink whiskey. B, drink more whiskey.
Drink, dodge, drink.
It's like my favorite Irish song. We're gonna drink and fight. Drink and fight.
Are you sure it's an Irish song?
Yes.
You just sit over there sometimes and grin. Are we that funny, or are you laughing at us?
Well, he's not laughing at us, he's laughing near us.
Right.
All right, kids. Thank you guys so much for pulling these double shifts so that we can have show representation during the upcoming month. And look, you get some Thursdays off, actually. So.
Facebook Live doesn't know that.
This is true. Facebook Live. Hello, Facebook Live. That's so bad. That's so bad it's painful. Woo, babies. All right, let's do it.
We need to make it. We need to have its own camera for that.
Yeah, right. A close up with the
A little black sock over your hand so you can't see.
Right, like the worse it is, the better.
With a couple googly eyes above it.
This is the stuff that drives my wife crazy when I do stuff that's not funny, but I just keep doing it
But it's
because
hilarious
it
because
gets
it's not
hilarious to
funny.
me because of how not funny it is. Yeah.
See, I get that humor, actually.
She enjoys my sense of humor except for that part.
Like, that humor makes sense to me, too.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right.
That's why we're able to watch like Anchorman and shit like
Exactly. Exactly.
Able to watch what?
that. Like Anchorman and movies like that.
Anchorman was an oddly funny movie.
Oddly funny.
I have many leather-bound books.
And my apartment smells of rich mahogany. All right.
So you have to watch some Will Ferrell bloopers one time.
Oh, I bet.
It's like
It smells like pure gasoline.
Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. It is show number 82.
I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah? Oh, the
But
drums
that
on that
bass drum
song?
sound is so good.
It's just great. We could go back into a whole nother drummer discussion like we had, but
Like,
we'll spare all of you non-drum playing persons our discussions of drums, at least this time. Next week, no promises. Black Market Cigars in New York City, as the title of today's show, will tell you why that's a very possible reality. And we're going to be tasting some Mount Gay XO Reserve Cask Rum on the show, as well as some really fine beers, including one in this segment that I'm really looking forward to because I love Victory Brewing out of Downingtown, Pennsylvania, and they have a new IPA. Victory Brewing, they came up with their IPA called Hop Devil was the first seriously hopped IPA that I tried, and I remember it took me some adjusting. I wound up really liking it, but it took me some adjusting. This is way back when I first started even trying IPAs. I was like,
and so oddly enough, their hoppier beers are not my favorites, but every beer they make is a good quality beer.
well,
that's
they
one of
really are
those
a good quality
brands
brewery. Yes,
that you can go, okay, if I'm going to buy something from this brand, I know it's going to be.
you know it's going to be good. That's right. The world's first crowd-funded craft beer hotel is slated to open in Columbus, Ohio, later this summer. Now, I'm excited about this because I now have a reason to go to Columbus. Because outside of the world's first crowd-funded craft beer hotel, I can't think of one.
Isn't there a song called Columbus Rocks? Oh, no, sorry, that's Cleveland.
I think that's Cleveland, yes. But here's the thing about the crowd-funded craft beer hotel. The Doghouse is what it's going to be called.
Nice.
Yeah, Brewdog is the company that's putting it together.
Oh, Brewdog makes great
Brewdog
beer.
is a craft brewery that originated in Northeast Scotland. Its first U.S. brewery launched in 2017 in Columbus, and it's connected to the site of the soon-to-be-opened hotel. Actual opening date, I don't think has been set, but it will be this summer. A similar hotel will open in Scotland in 2019. Here's the thing, Ian. This is the information you need to know. Here's what you need to know. When this hotel opens, the Doghouse in Columbus, Ohio, this summer, every room has a tap in it.
What?
Yeah, see, that's what I saw your face. I knew that's what I was waiting for.
What?
Waiting for it. Here it is. Boom. A tap in every room. So you're like, okay, I'm checking in. I'm putting my baggage away. I'm hanging up my shirts. I'm putting my shoes on the floor in the closet. And now I'm going to pour myself a craft beer from the tap.
I think you did all of that backwards.
Yeah, I think I probably did. But, delayed gratification can be a good thing. It can be a very good thing. Crowdfunding for the Doghouse came from an Indiegogo campaign. It's raised over $330,000 already. So the Doghouse, they say, will have craft beer at its core. They've already started work developing some craft beer spa treatments. And malted barley massages, and a hoppy feet pedicure.
Nice.
Yep, to put a spring in your step before the brewery tour. You'll fully immerse yourself in the world of craft beer during your stay and enjoy craft beer-infused breakfast, lunches, and dinners with beers paired to every course. It's a reason to visit Columbus, Ohio. Or we could just wait until 2019 and go to Scotland, which would have some other interesting stops. So, but yes, the Doghouse. I like it.
That sounds like a pretty fun place to stop over.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, seriously, a tap in every room. I'd be calling you up going, hey, I think mine's an amber ale. What's yours?
Right.
Seriously, I'm coming to your room. You got an IPA. Okay. So speaking of IPA, Downingtown, Pennsylvania's Victory Brewery has brought to us a Forefront IPA. I believe it's Forefront because it is I believe they use 4 different styles of hops. I believe they only list citrus and pine, but that's the aromas. So they don't say exactly what the hops are, at least on the bottle. But Victory, as you were saying earlier, they've always made quality products, and I'm very curious to see what this is going to be like.
I love that sound.
Isn't it a wonderful sound?
Yeah.
It is. It's just
There's
the
something
type
about
of
the
sound.
first popped open sound of our show.
The
too.
first one in each show. Yes, I agree with you. The first one in each show has just this, I don't know, maybe it's more anticipation because we haven't heard it yet. I don't know. But you're right. There's something very special about the first beer to be popped open here on the program. So Victory, I've had a number of great Victory beers of all kinds of styles. And so I'm really psyched to try this, being, a fan of the IPA. And I'll be interested to see what your research indicates, Ian.
Well, first off, just the nose of this smells like a pine cone that someone added hops to.
Yeah, it's definitely got some hoppiness to it. No question. On the nose, more so than I was even expecting.
Yeah, this smells like a pile of pine cones that someone put hops on top of, and then cooked the whole thing.
That can be very festive and holiday-like, though. You'll have to see.
It tastes delicious.
I have to admit, from the pine cone smell, I was not anticipating this to be this smooth or sessionable.
I was expecting this to be sharp and super bitter.
And very bitter, yes.
Right. And it's not any of those things.
No, it isn't. And so now I'm going to have to separate the aroma from what the taste is like. It's it's not a hop explosion at all. It's more like these hops just really blend.
Yeah, it's almost like a yeah, it's hard to say how that's working.
It
all blends together so well. And at least like the aftertaste is such a hoppy, and again, there's the pine cone, but not in a bitter kind of way.
No. It's actually quite refreshing.
Like that's might be one of the more interesting IPAs I've ever actually tried. And I almost was convinced I wasn't going to like it just from the nose on it. The aroma is so huge.
But the finish is so clean.
But the finish is much cleaner than you expect. There's more maltiness in there than you'd ever expect, especially at the aroma, because you can't even smell malt on the aroma.
Right, you're just getting
It's
that
just like-
hops. And I believe that there are 4 different kinds of hops. That's why they call it Forefront. But Victory, again, these guys are known for, Hop Devil is a hoppy IPA.
Like this is,
but it's still quite drinkable.
This is such an interesting, right? Well, see, Hop Devil, again, quality product, not my flavor profile. Like, to me, that's a little too hoppy. And again, it's, I mean, certainly hand me one. Don't watch me go here.
Right. Yeah, you're not handing it back. Yeah.
But it's not what I'd go out of my way to get. This is such an interesting profile. Like, I haven't even decided about this beer yet. I mean, I definitely like it.
It is not as hoppy as Hop Devil.
It's not, but it smells way hoppier than Hop Devil.
No, you're absolutely right. Hop Devil also is a darker sort of a caramel color, whereas this one is more amber looking.
No, and this has a lot of carbonation to it as well.
Yes, it does.
Big,
That's maybe part of
big head on it. This is a lot of things I didn't expect. I'm actually for this.
The carbonation may be part of the reason that it is as
so fragrant.
Yeah, as fragrant as it is, and that it pulls those different strains of hops together as well as this stuff.
I mean, this is like the aroma on this is like a bowl of potpourri. It's like huge.
So this may be the big surprise of the show because I think we both were expecting something completely different.
I can't believe how balanced the flavor is and how different it is from the aroma.
I was expecting what would be like a double IPA or something like a more cowbell or, one of those kind of just very big, very hop-intense IPA.
Well, let me tell you this. If you're an IPA fan who just loves IPA, and you want the hugest IBUs you can get, this doesn't taste like that.
No, it really doesn't.
This is an IPA that I enjoy because of the way the flavor profile hits. It's not just a hop bomb.
It is almost sessionable. You know what I mean? Like you would almost say that it's
right.
that it's like a more sessionable.
What's the ABV on that one?
I'm not sure if it says. Let's see. It is 5.5.
Okay, so it's reasonably sessionable.
Mm-hmm.
This is a completely unexpected treat.
It does have the brewmaster's signature of approval on the bottle.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Brewmaster, because this is a very unique product.
VictoryBeer.com to find out more about it, and I'm sure there is a write-up on the website, which I will confess I should have looked at.
And what's the name of this one again?
It's Forefront, the number 4.
Forefront.
The number 4, and then the word front. Forefront from Victory. And it's a brand new IPA, or at least it was new to me. Like, I had not seen this before. I was shopping at Specs and saw it in the cooler. I was like, I'm going there.
Okay, so I'm going to recommend this to anyone who kind of likes IPA but doesn't like them so over the top and bitter.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who wants an IPA that is interesting and complex.
Yes.
This one hits the spot on all of that.
It's got the complexity for sure, but
and
it's
was not
there.
expecting that at all, not from the name, nor from the aroma.
I love surprises, and we'll show that to the camera there, especially this kind of surprises, beer surprises. All right, that's the Forefront from Victory. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we have more tasting to do. And I don't know if this will remain the biggest surprise of the show, because in our next segment, we'll be tasting the Unity Vibration Bourbon Peach Kombucha Wild Ale.
Are you talking about the Unity Vibration Bourbon Peach Kombucha Wild Ale?
Yes, from Ypsilanti, Michigan.
From Ypsilanti, Michigan.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And we'll be tasting it in the next segment. Plus, stand by for a black market for cigars in New York. It could be happening by the time we finish the show. We'll have details coming up.
Otherwise known as the UVBPKWA.
From YM. I got you with that one.
That is such a surprising
I
IPA.
know.
Wow, that's
especially
crazy.
like when you look at like the illustration and stuff, you're just expecting hop bomb.
It's nothing of what I even from the aroma. It's nothing of what I expected at all. I'm actually a little blown away by that.
Victory makes good beers, I'm telling you. What'd you think of that, Adam?
I think it's probably one of the better IPAs I've ever tasted.
Wow.
For sure. As far as just the overall balance.
Just the way it's balanced, yeah. You've got all those hops, the way they've managed to get them to work together.
The way they blend,
Yeah.
way they,
Yeah.
That's up there, man. That's some good stuff.
It leaves such a pleasant aftertaste too. Like I want that kind of flavor stuck in my mouth.
I want it.
You can't have it.
what you think about the crowd-funded craft beer hotel.
Totally want to go there.
Like a birthday trip or something.
Right. Just the whole idea of checking into the room, and there's the tap. Honey, we have come to the right place.
Right? I believe this is our hotel room.
Maybe it's good that it's in Columbus, Ohio, because it's not like you're missing anything, like if you just want to stay in the room all night.
Yeah, because what else is... They have
They have insurance companies. That's all they have there.
No, they have a theme park. Yeah, they have a big theme park. What theme park is it?
I've been to Columbus. It was a pretty boring city. Sorry to our
Did
Columbus,
you not go
Ohio
ride roller
listeners.
coasters? They have a big
I did
theme
not.
park there that's
I
pretty
did not.
pretty famous, don't they?
I think so, yeah. Six Flags over Boringville.
The Columbus Chamber of Commerce is going to be calling us.
Yeah. Can't believe on the show we did back on March 8th when I dissed Total Wine, too. Ooh,
Oh, I can't believe you did it.
yikes.
Do we have Mark on that show? Mark,
Yes, I think Mark was here for that.
He was awesome.
He completely laid out of the discussion
He was
immediately.
like, I'm not part of that one.
Yes, yes. He's a good man.
I like that guy. He's so fun.
He is awesome. Oh, let me get the wacky ale here.
Are you talking about the Unity Vibration Bourbon Peach Kombucha Wild Ale from Ypsilanti, Michigan?
I believe I am.
Ypsilanti,
Ypsilanti.
Michigan?
I believe I am.
Not Ypsilami.
Ypsilanti. That would be different. Ready to rock? Let's do it.
As they say, I'm down like 4 flat tires.
I think they do say that.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Smokin' and Toastin', show number 82. We are all talking about craft beer and all talking about fine spirits and all talking about hand-rolled cigars. And we're doing it on this very program. And we have fun talking about those things. Coming up, we'll be talking about and tasting the Unity Vibration Bourbon Peach Kombucha Wild Ale. That is not only raw and gluten-free, but vegan as well. That's what it says right on the bottle.
That's pretty awesome. And it's got a hot chick on a motorcycle.
Yeah, so you got to love that, right? We're moving in the right direction. New York is not moving in the right direction, at least not for cigar lovers.
Now, you mentioned this whole black market cigars going on. Not black market cigars, but black market cigars.
The cigar named black market
Right.
cigars, yeah. But an actual black market for cigars in New York. So Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York State, in an attempt to close down the state's $4.4 billion budget deficit, has proposed a package of about $1 billion in tax hikes and fee increases as part of his this year executive budget, which was unveiled all the way back in January. But it takes a while sometimes to dig through all this stuff and see what they're actually talking about. And among the list of revenue raisers in this budget is a proposal to change the formula for the way that state excise taxes on cigars are calculated. The new rules would make the cigar taxes based on invoice costs instead of manufacturing cost beginning September 1st. So this would raise state cigar taxes from the industry standard of 28.5% to 75%. And for the consumer, this means that a cigar that's currently on the shelf for $8 jumps to about $11
That sucks.
due to the tax hike. Now, this proposal comes just 5 months after New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio signed a tax hike into law that prohibits cigars in New York City from being sold for less than $8 a stick. And it adds a 10% tax. So the impact of that is what were once, less expensive cigars that sold for $5. Now they're, boom, $8, right? And a cigar with a suggested retail price of $9.50 now costs nearly $14 before sales tax. And should the Mario Cuomo proposal become law, it will likely bring about the closure of some small businesses and cost jobs. And so that's why the New York Association of Convenience Stores is opposing the tax hike. But tax hikes on tobacco product have been around for a long time. And one thing they have shown consistently is that raising taxes actually decreases state revenue, because state collections from tobacco sales dropped from $1.5 billion to $1.2 billion over the last 5 years as they've been hiking the tobacco tax.
They're already charging
taxes up
30%.
Yeah, yeah. But see, it's not political suicide to impose a tax on things like smoking, right? Because
It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
Like, that's just crazy.
So what a lot of people are saying is, if this all goes into effect September 1, expect cigars in New York City, whether they're from the Dominican Republic or Nicaragua or Honduras, all to be available on the black market the way that essentially Cuban cigars have been for a number of years. I mean, we all know that guy who can get Cubans, right?
Right.
So how about just that guy who can get cigars at, like, reasonable prices that you might pay in other states instead of, these jacked up prices.
Not only are they going to drive their own revenue down, but just like the article said, like, they're going to drive so many small businesses out.
I have been to, I've spent quite a bit of time in New York City. I've never lived there. I've spent quite a bit of time there. I always have loved going to New York, and one of the reasons is I love some of the smoking options in New York. The Grand Havana Room, I've been invited to. It's fantastic. I have been to a couple of little smoking lounges that are in different sort of hip locations around town. Club Macanudo in New York. So I've had a great time at Club Macanudo. It's always been a fun place to go and smoke. There was a time when a visit to New York was exciting just to go to the JR Cigar Store in New York. It was one of the biggest cigar stores at that time I'd ever been in.
Right.
And in New York, where everything's, condensed in size. So New York's always been like a great place to go for cigar lovers, and now it's going to be a potential problem. And it's take it off the list. I mean, California is already a problem. I mean, I'm excited. We're going to do our show in a couple of weeks in
Right.
California, but it's not the most cigar-friendly state in the union.
No.
And we'll be, we'll be announcing it on the website or on social media exactly where we'll be doing the show from, but definitely count on us doing it from somewhere where we can smoke.
Being as it's California, we can eliminate being able to smoke inside, and we
Yes.
can eliminate also being able to smoke outside.
Yes.
So that leaves tons of options.
So we're
available.
going to be doing the show from inside our car. Where
As long as we don't get pulled over and get a ticket for smoking,
for
inside,
smoking inside our car, exactly. So anyway, it should be interesting. We'll tell you what comes by for that. But you hate, seeing the biggest two cities in the United States become so cigar unfriendly, New York City and Los Angeles.
Well, are they just lumping it in with cigarettes? Is that what's going on? Because it's a different thing.
In New York, this is specifically about cigars. Although
Yeah,
some of the taxes that have hit before have been, just about smoking in general, have been about tobacco products in general. But the New York City bill that said no cigar can retail for less than $8.
That's just so nuts.
I mean, that's nuts. So think of all the cigars that we are thrilled to buy that cost less than $8, And those cigars would be $8.
yeah, that kills an entire market out there.
It does. And think about how big New York City is. It's just wrong. I think we better have a beer.
It seems a little gouging, doesn't it?
It does. Gouging people who
Isn't price gouging illegal, but the government can do it now?
One would think, yes. But again, you're talking government. So Unity Vibration, I have done some research. They are a tea company and a beer company. And here's what it says on the bottle of their Bourbon Peach American Wild Ale, in addition to having the hot chick on the motorcycle. It says here, our bourbon barrel-aged Kombucha has double the rich, delicious bourbon flavor as it ages with juicy, whole, organic peaches. This unique beverage is a culmination of the ancient process of kombucha brewing, paired with the newer brewing process of a uniquely American high-gravity ale. Have you ever heard of a high-gravity ale?
Yes.
What does that mean? I don't know
I
what
don't
that
know.
means. Okay, well, I don't feel so bad now. I thought, I have no idea what a high-gravity ale is. I'm just completely in the dark. So the first thing I'm noticing pouring this is that it is extremely pale. almost straw
That is
colored.
very pale straw colored.
But it's got an interesting aroma to it as the peach and the barrel aging comes right to the forefront. We're going to have to check this out.
I can smell that from over here.
Yeah, the peachiness of it, right? Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So this may be the most interesting beer we taste. I'm wondering if it'll be the biggest surprise, because so far the biggest surprise was the forefront from Victory Brewing. It'll be interesting to see how this holds up. And this is in a bomber, by the way. So
This smells sour.
this is from Ypsilanti, Michigan. It says, reminiscent of summer campfires and refreshing swims in the Great Lakes, our Kombucha ale is always unfiltered, raw, and living. Taste the freshness and distinctive flavors you can only find with this process and unique combination. Love, health, and possibility. Unity Vibration Living Kombucha Tea, LLC. So this may be our new favorite thing, or it may be the weirdest and least favorite thing we've ever tasted. I don't know. We're gonna have to. It definitely smells on the nose. It's very much like a sour.
It smells very much like a sour. Mm-hmm. Tasting notes on this:
Yes.
honey.
Yes.
Lots of no. I'm not calling you honey.
Yes. You notice how I just immediately
honey.
responded. Yes.
No, it has a lot of honey in it. A ton of honey. There's a little. It smells more sour than it actually is.
Yes.
It has a little bit of sourness to it. It's interesting. This is one of the more interesting beers.
You can pull the peach out of it. I have to say,
but it's like the fuzzy skin of the peach.
Uh-huh.
It's not the. It's.
I have to say that there's things I like about it, and there's things I don't like. What I will say that I don't like is actually not the sour, but the sweet. Because there's a sweetness mixed in with the sour, and on the finish, it leaves me with a little bit of that kind of
It
sweetness.
does, but it
taste on
also
my
at the
tongue.
same time leaves my mouth watering. Mm-hmm. Like, you ever have that quench gum that just makes you drool?
Yes, I know what you're
This
talking
does
about.
that.
And has some of that same sort of
It does have some of
sweetness
the
flavor
same-
to it as well. So I have to say, that sweetness is enough to make me not like this, but then after I take a beat, I want another swallow. I want another drink.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was about to say. Is like, there's a lot of things about that I generally wouldn't like in a beer, but I keep wanting.
But I keep wanting
more
some more
of it.
Yes.
You know, and I'm about to start drooling on myself. It really is making my my saliva glands work overtime.
So which was a bigger surprise, this or the forefront?
So the forefront is just a legitimately complex IPA. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a surprise in how crafty they could be. This
Is like nothing we've ever tasted before.
This is left field right here.
Yeah, this is maybe one of the stranger beers. I'm going to put this in as strange as the chunky beer that
the
you
barley
brought.
wine.
The barley wine that you brought that time that had actual. I don't mean it was chewy. I mean you had to actually
Harvest
use your
Ale.
teeth for that. But I'm going to put this kind of.
You
in that
got to
same
respect a
category.
beer that can actually
Oh.
get stuck on your teeth,
Oh,
all right?
yeah, yeah. Are you respecting the Kombucha ale?
You know, for a Vibration Bourbon Peach Kombucha Wild Ale, I think it's interesting. This is fun. This is a good. Let's have this beer at a party
And let everybody taste it.
and let
see
a
what you
whole
think.
bunch of people taste it.
I
It's
agree.
worth every bit for that. What cost on the bottle?
I
Do you
don't
remember?
think it was more than $6 or $7 for the bomber.
Well worth it. Mm-hmm. This is not something you would go home after a hard day of work and go, I'm just going to have this.
Yeah, boy, I'm in the mood for a beer. I'm going to grab this Kombucha Wild Peach Ale bourbon.
It's the Unity Vibration Bourbon Peach Kombucha Wild Ale.
Thank you for straightening that out. It is raw, gluten-free, and vegan.
So it's interesting. I think that some people would really enjoy this.
Like, would your wife like this?
My wife doesn't really like the sour beers at all.
Yeah.
And this has probably just enough kiss of sour, but she would do this because she makes this face when she's thinking about things where she it's hard to-
furrows the brow.
She furrows the brow and eyes go up, and she's thinking about it, and it's absolutely adorable. I love that about her. And she would make that face at this beer. I don't know how much she would enjoy it, but she would try it, and she would probably appreciate it for what it is. For me, I think you should buy this beer. I think you should buy this beer and have it with a group of friends, and it gives us... Look at how much we've talked about it.
Right.
Like, we're way over our segment just because it's that interesting.
But it's an interesting beer. It's
incredibly
unpasteurized,
interesting.
unfiltered, and like you said, perfect for a party where we're going to, pass it around and everybody's going to try it. I don't know. I think I may have to have
that
a little
weird
more.
And then it does that.
Right.
See, it's very bizarre. You know that weird lull in the conversation where everyone gets quiet and there's that one person saying, and if I want to walk around naked,
Right.
that's the perfect time to pull out this and go, let's have something to talk about.
When you have that lull at your party, you're right. Okay, everybody, I got something for us. All right. I have got some Montgay XO Reserve Cask Rum. Sweetness, I think, in a very different kind of way. We'll find out. That'll be coming up. Plus, we'll be sampling the Avery Brewing The Reverend, a Belgian-Style quadruple ale, which I think will be less surprising than our last two beers. So we have that coming up. Plus, how to become an instant whiskey expert. We will tell you.
I can't wait to hear that.
Coming up next. It's Smoking and Toast.
Because I need help.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Wow. I poured you some of this, right?
Oh, yeah. So have y'all had kombucha?
Is it kombucha? Kombucha? Am I saying it wrong?
It's kombucha.
Kombucha. Okay.
No, that is kombucha, like the actual kombucha.
Fermented
tea that they sell.
So Unity is a kombucha tea company.
That's pretty amazing. Okay, so kombucha has gotten really big the past 3-4 years. Got really big in like a health community. It's
and is it sweet the same way as this?
That tastes just like kombucha with alcohol.
All right, you gotta come on the mic in the next segment and tell us all of this, because you know more about this than we do.
I'm not familiar with that at all.
Kombucha is actually really healthy because it has probiotics in it. It's really good for your stomach and all that. So that's pretty amazing. So like kombucha with alcohol. So it's made the same way as alcohol. It's fermented and it's brewed. So it's
brewed like a beer.
Very interesting.
So I saw this in specs and I was like, that just looks interesting. Let's try it.
It's really good. I like that a
All
lot.
right. So we'll come back and talk kombucha with.
That's so interesting. And it's kombucha, not kombucha.
Kombucha, yeah.
Kombucha.
That's how I've heard it always.
Yeah, you're probably right. I went with kombucha.
Oh, we just invent the way we say things sometimes.
Yeah. But see, I love when we are able to correct ourselves or be corrected by someone who knows. So, would you like some more?
No.
Okay.
I have plenty of beer over here.
Okay. All right, we are ready when you are. Oh. I say that, but I do have to get. Okay. Segment 4. We're rocking it, boys. All right. Ready when you are. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. It is show number 82. We are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, and we are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. Okay, so during the break, and this is why you watch on Facebook Live, because you get to see this stuff during the break, but this was important enough we had to come back to it. Adam, our producer, who is on the Wheels of Steel, schooled us basically because we didn't know what we were talking about in that last segment.
Yes,
we were calling this, and you have to make sure you remember to turn your mic up there, Adam, so you can officially school us. But we were calling this Kombucha Ale from Unity Vibration. You know all about this, and we also weren't even pronouncing it right. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know about the kombucha ale, but I do know what kombucha is, and it's made the same way as beer. It's fermented, brewed same
but it's
way.
a tea product, right?
It's basically, it's not technically a tea. It's actually its own thing called kombucha,
Right.
But it is made, they do usually infuse it with different teas, and it's never just its own thing, because it could be pretty it doesn't taste too good by itself because it has very,
But it takes on other flavors.
sour. Yeah, and they'll infuse with other flavors. Lavender. They have all these different new ones out, and it just got popular the past like 5 years. But that is like actual kombucha with alcohol in it. So regular kombucha does have a very small amount, 0.5, 0.2% alcohol in it because it's fermented. It has a natural occurring alcohol. But this, I don't know how they actually made it with added alcohol, but it's tastes just like kombucha with a little bit of alcohol in it.
But it's definitely got more of a... Now, did you like this?
It's delicious. If you like kombucha, you will like that. No doubt.
So Adam eats very healthy. I think he eats vegetarian or vegan most of the time.
Yeah.
And so this is something that was already... in his wheelhouse, something he already knew about. We, of course, were calling it Kombucha and mispronouncing it and got it wrong.
So all the millennials listening to this were going, what are they talking about?
Yes.
Now they know.
Yeah, but Unity Vibration. And so were you familiar with the company, with Unity Vibration?
No.
Have you heard of them before?
No.
Okay. So very interesting. Well, I picked this up at Specs, and it was in the cooler, and it was not expensive. So it's something that you might want to check out if that sounds like really appealing to you.
Now, I'm curious, does kombucha itself make you want to keep drinking it like this does? Like, this makes you want to keep...
saying yes.
He's nodding
Yeah,
yes.
he's nodding yes.
Like, it makes you keep coming back to it.
I'm still, like, nursing a little
It's
bit
like
of
that
it here.
you can't just eat just one chip kind of thing.
They call that the
So I got
the Doritos factor is what
I
they
got
call
a
that.
text while we were sitting here, and this is from a friend of mine named Keith. He actually came and hung out at B&B one time when we were doing the show. And,
I remember Keith. Good
yeah,
guy.
and he got to enjoy with us. He listened to our show that was maybe a month ago or something like that. We talked about the St. Arnold DR18. You brought it in.
Yes, the Divine Reserve 18.
Yeah,
which was
and
delicious.
yes, it was amazing. So he just sent me this thing, and I'm going to read this real quick. This will only take a minute, but I just wanted to put this out here because he listened to our show and decided, okay, I have to try that. He says, my notes on St. Arnold DR18. Now, he has a quirky sense of humor, too, just
Before you go there, let me just point out again, directly affecting sales. Smoking and toasting.
Affecting sales.
That's right. Just wanted to point that out.
And by the way, Solo Cups, sponsor me.
Yes, we could directly affect your sales. So
that's right.
Okay, sorry. So what did he say?
He says, so I poured the bottle into a glass in the kitchen. The aroma hit me from several feet away. Fruit and something I couldn't quite define. This is an American Imperial Stout. I took the beer, a book, and wheat crackers spread with Irish butter out to my favorite chair on the patio. He's got a nice little area out there with a pool and everything.
Yeah.
Right, he's setting himself up. He spoiled himself. He's retired, whatever. Mm-hmm. He goes, I sipped the beer, ate a cracker, and continued reading the second book of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I figured out...
Is that one, So Long and Thanks for All the Fish?
The restaurant at the end of the universe.
At the end of the universe, okay.
He goes, I figured out the mystery, aroma, and taste. It was vanilla. 1/3 of the way through the beer, I was now listening to my iPhone to Frank Sinatra singing One for My Baby. After 5 different recordings, I went back to the book, finished the crackers and beer, 13.4% ABV. You'd never know it until you realize it's good for an afternoon nap.
Yeah.
Wonderful brew, good night, nurse.
Wow, what a great review. What a great review.
That's a shout out. Yeah, shout out to Gabe. I thought that was fun because we're going back to like something that he listened to a month ago and said, you know what, I gotta try this.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Thank you, Keith. That was absolutely awesome. Well, I think it's time to do a little more tasting, and we've had such an unusual show tasting-wise so far, but I think this may bring it right back to something that would be more along the lines of our expectations, and that is the Montgay XO Reserve Cask Rum. This is rum from Barbados. It's extra old reserve cask rum from the oldest rum house in the world. A unique, smooth, and complex blend widely recognized by connoisseurs and experts alike. So that's interesting. Apparently connoisseurs and experts are two different types of people.
I guess you can have amateur experts or expert connoisseurs. Or
would you rather be a connoisseur, Ian, or an expert?
I'm not sure. That was a nice pop.
My dad used to say, you don't really have respect for experts because X is a has-been and spurt is a squirt under pressure. So that was just, but see, my dad used to say crap like that, so.
I have to meet your dad. He sounds like a pretty funny guy.
Apparently still does.
I feel like I would get his sense of humor.
I think, unfortunately for all of us, you probably would.
I feel like his sense of humor would be right up my alley.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably the case. So,
You're like, that's unfortunately true.
so pouring a little bit of this Montquet rum, and I'll show this to the camera here, it is exactly that sort of caramel color that you would expect a rum to be, and it, quite frankly, looks delicious. So.
Well, look at how dark it is even in that bottle.
Yes, even
That's
in the
like
bottle,
dark
it is
red,
dark.
ruddy red.
So this is from a distillery that was established in 1703, and it is the Montquet Distillery. And part of the reason, by the way, that I brought this in today is because I had actually thought that our buddy Jeremiah would be joining us, and as much as he knows about whiskey, he's been really getting into rums lately, and so I thought he would appreciate this. But Jeremiah, we will be enjoying it without you. Now, I will tell you on the nose, wow, it's a cinnamon explosion. I'm getting lots of cinnamon on the nose.
Well, it's got the flavors, the aroma that you would expect in rum.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has just a ton of cinnamon and a ton of apple peel.
So there is more cinnamon on the finish of this than maybe anything I've ever tried.
This actually burns my lips a little bit.
Because of the cinnamon?
I don't know. But it's so smooth on the palate. Like, as weird as that sounds, it's so smooth on the palate. This is delicious.
All right, so I'm gonna draw a comparison that sounds like it's not that favorable, but it does remind me of this. When I was a kid, we used to buy these cinnamon toothpicks in these little
I know. You can
wax
still
paper
get those.
packages, right? And you would chew them, and they would just almost burn your mouth with this cinnamon. The flavor reminds me of those, but in a much more pleasant way.
Yep.
It doesn't taste like wood, and it doesn't burn your mouth. But boy, it is.
Also, it doesn't splinter off and
and stick in your tongue, which is not a good thing.
I remember those.
I will tell you, I like
also
this.
remember candy cigarettes.
I
Those
like
were
this
good.
a lot. To have the kind of cinnamon, I'll use the word burn, although that's not.
Bite
is a better word.
Cinnamon bite.
To have the kind of cinnamon bite that it has, but to be this smooth, I don't know how it accomplishes both of those things.
It's today. I guess today's show is all about complexity and what we're talking about. And I got to tell you that it's more complex than just cinnamon. Cinnamon is so prevalent. The brown sugar, of course, and molasses,
Brown sugar and molasses
are just
for sure,
huge.
yes.
I mean, that's you expect
You'd
that
expect
in a
from
rum.
a rum, yes. But boy, I'm telling you, there's something going
The
on here.
vanilla and the cinnamon.
It's almost like
There's also cinnamon.
It's almost like a cinnamon rum cookie. Is what it really, because you get that vanilla and cinnamon, and it's certainly got a rum vibe to it.
There's a gingerbread kind of quality to this too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the brown sugar side of it or what it is, but it's really got a lot of that. And it actually burns my lips just a little bit. Not in a real bad way, not in an unpleasant way, but when you use one of those chapsticks that has the...
Right. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
It has that kind of quality on my lips.
I could see an
How
afternoon.
about a tingle on my lips? That's what it is.
I could see an afternoon in the shade, in a nice, comfortable outdoor chair, with your favorite book or whatever book you're reading at the moment, a bottle of this, and a really nice medium-bodied cigar.
Yeah, I bet this goes really well with the cigar.
I bet it does, just because it isn't just sweet. I mean, it's certainly, all rum has got, sweetness to it, but it isn't just the sweetness. The cinnamon kind of sets it up to it's almost like it wakes up your taste buds.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow, what would I be getting from the cigar at this point?
And you could even do a spicy cigar with this, which would probably ramp up the cinnamon flavor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or even just a straight up medium, but something with sweetness to it, which would probably just complement the flavor at that point. But I also bet, you know what? I bet a mild but big flavor cigar would actually have a nice profile with this as well, because
Something like a Perdomo Champagne or...
yeah, those are so good.
Yeah.
But something that's mild but wonderful, or the Arturo Fuente, the Arturo Fuente Hemingway series, or the Yeah, there's a bunch of great ones out there.
Even like a really good like Dunhill.
Romeo and Julieta.
Yes, absolutely.
Or like an Avo, like an Avo
like
number 2
Avo,
or something like that.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to have to try this, and that probably means you're going to need to come over.
Well, then we'd have to have a special occasion to smoke special occasion cigars.
Well, we're going to be in L.A. That'll be a special occasion.
That sounds like a special occasion.
Right. So we'll get to that, and I have promised you how to become an instant whiskey expert with these tasting tips, and I will share those with you next, I promise. Plus, one more thing to taste, and that's Avery Brewing's The Reverend Belgian-Style Quadrupel Ale. Ian is smiling, just in case the camera's not on him.
I love
He's smiling.
Belgian-Style.
We'll be back.
Quadruple ales.
It's smoking and toasting.
The only thing that makes me happier is just adding more syllables to that. What's that?
Quadruple ale.
Quadruple ale.
Like an Oompa Loompa, but it's an ale.
We need a quintuple ale.
Wow. What fun.
So interesting, like kombucha.
Kombucha is how you say it, right? Kombucha.
Yep. You'll see it. I mean, if you look for it.
I've heard of it. Once you said it that way.
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
That is so interesting. Bourbon peach on top of that.
Yeah, no. When y'all were saying it, I was like,
Is it what?
Like,
what is that word?
I'm like, maybe it's another form of kombucha. Or they're really just like an imitation, or maybe they're saying that because it tastes like it. I was
No,
like,
we're just inventing stuff. That's kind of what we do.
So I was just like, okay. And then I tried it. I was like, oh yeah, it's kombucha.
No, we're just making stuff up. So what do they usually pair with it?
They have different flavors. Like they'll have they'll call them different things, like different kind of fruity stuff, or.
And do you have? Are you coming through the mic? Like I know we're Facebook Live right now. Are you coming through the mic on here? Can people hear you?
No.
Well, put that thing by your face. I want to talk about it. So what are they? This is Facebook special here. So I'm interested about kombucha. So I'm talking with Adam about this. What do they usually put in kombucha? What kind of flavors are usually paired with it?
Well, I know they use a variety of teas. Anything from like a lavender to a green to you name it.
So is kombucha something they add to tea generally, or is tea something they add to kombucha?
Tea is something they add to kombucha.
Okay, the other way around. Gotcha.
Because
this is totally new to me. I don't know anything about it.
It's fermented first, and they add these pretty much infused flavors, I guess, from the tea, and they brew it. They brew those teas with the kombucha, and they give it all the flavor, and that's where the flavor comes from.
And is kombucha naturally sweet like this?
Yeah.
You said this tastes very much like kombucha.
It's sweet, and it's definitely when you taste it, it's definitely a little bit of a soury.
Right.
You can tell it's a fermenty, yeasty kind of. You know it's fermented when you drink it. It's very carbonated, but it's very light, just like this. Very light. Easy to drink. Sometimes it can be a little heavy on the carbonation when you're drinking it. You can definitely tell it's like, okay, I got to kind of sip on it a little bit, and and if you shake it up, it'll foam over the top, because it's
okay. I have a fun challenge for you at some point in time, because this reminds me a little bit too of Dogfish Head has an ale called the Midas Touch, and this is
guys are geniuses.
Yeah. This is an ale that was the recipe came from, I think, an Egyptian scroll.
Oh,
and they decided to brew it.
Badass.
And it is. It's very cool. It's very interesting. It's not what you expect from beer, but Dogfish Head has never been like that company that goes, I have to brew something standard.
So they found this.
So they found this recipe, and they brewed it. It's called Midas Touch, and it's so honey based flavored. And this to me has a very honey kind of flavor to it, but it also has a little bit of sour, a little bit, and this reminds me a lot of that. They're not the same, but I think if you like this, you'll probably really enjoy that. And hopefully they're still making it. I haven't seen it.
It's a sweeter taste to the beer.
It's very sweet. Yeah, it's very sweet. Very very sweet. Like this is sweet. And a honey sweet kind of thing. But I bet if you like this and the flavor profile this has, I bet you'd probably like that. It'd be something
I would love to
interesting
try
for you
that. I would just try it just because it's Egyptian. It sounds amazing.
Right, and it's not something you just sit down and slam back 4 bottles of.
Yeah.
But much like this, you sit down and enjoy a little bit, or like we talked about, is this is a great conversation piece, you know. There's some fun recipes out there like that. New Belgium has a beer called 1554, which came from a recipe from 1554.
Wow, yeah.
Which, by the way, they call it an enlightened black ale. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, also pretty sessionable.
I love the idea of going back to older recipes and older ways of doing things because it reminds you of, okay, this is where all this stuff came from, you know?
Right.
This is where a freaking porter originated from. Oh, it came from this and this and this and this. All the steps, you know, you can look back and that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
That's
All right.
All right.
pretty cool. We've been having a big old conversation the whole time you're gone about kombucha and everything else.
Good, because that kept the hopefully the Facebook Live people in.
Have you ever tried, because I mentioned to him too, have you ever tried the Dogfish Head Midas Touch?
I don't think I have.
That's the one
But those
that was,
guys are geniuses.
Yeah, it was like they found it, like it's a recipe that was found on a scroll.
Wow, how cool is that?
Like thousands of years old or something like that, and they decided to say, hey, let's just make it.
That's just a story waiting to happen, right?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's so interesting and fun, and I don't know if they're still making it in production, but it'd be worth trying if you can find it.
You know, hopefully a lot of the breweries that have made these limited production things will at least bring them back from time to time. You know?
Well, sometimes, and there's such a resurgence of things like he was talking about. He likes right now. There's this whole resurgence of things like, hey, let's try the way we were doing it 100 years ago, 200 years ago, things like that.
Reverting to the old ways of doing
right,
things,
and it's kind of a retro. Let's try it like that. It's so fun because it's like trying and finding out where stuff comes from. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like that the old fashioned has made it back into style because, well, it's an old fashioned. When was that popular? In the, you know, in the aughts or the 20s or whatever. You know?
The aughts.
The aughts. The 1800s.
All right, ready to rock when you are. Final segment. And, oh, wait, I have to get. The Reverend.
That looks kind of scary.
It does look a little. It's even scarier when you. Oh, you can see the guy. He was on the back too. Yeah, it is a little creepy. Just calling it the Reverend is scary to me. The Rev.
On the beach in Hawaii.
Welcome back, Smoking and Toasting, show number 82, the show about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. Can I just say something real quick about this Montgay XO rum that we tried in the last segment?
Are you thinking it would go really good with the bacon from B&B?
No, but thank you for going there, because that was, oh man, wouldn't that be fantastic? Are you kidding me? Now, what I was going to say is a while back I bought, and I don't remember what it was now exactly, but I bought a rum that was infused with cinnamon. And I tried it, and it was okay. It didn't knock me out. I don't think I even brought it on the show because it wasn't.
Was it called Fireball?
No, that's a whiskey. That's a whiskey, right? So this was kind of.
I was being silly.
Yeah, so this is like the rum equivalent of that, I guess, and it was fine. It was it was okay, but it didn't blow me away. But if you want a rum with cinnamon flavor, go this direction. This Montgay XO. This is because this is, and it doesn't have any cinnamon actually infused into it. This is just the flavors that they're getting from the aging of this rum. But boy, this is a cinnamon bomb, is what it is.
Big time.
It really is, and it's delicious. And we've discovered one here, I think. This is very good. We've discovered a lot of things in this episode.
I mean, you should not drink that if you don't like things like molasses and cinnamon and vanilla and rum.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've discovered a lot, and we haven't even gotten to the Reverend, which I love the whole sense of humor of Avery Brewing. They're out of Boulder, Colorado. They're just a great brewery. And I love across the top of the can, it says, not just for Sundays.
Nice.
Yes, very nice. So we'll get to the Reverend here in it. But first of all, I want to give you the skinny on sipping. How to become an instant whiskey expert. Several very, very simple tips.
You have my rapt attention.
And these come not from just like some guy who's a writer, but they come from Graham Cool. C-U-L-L. Graham Cool. Graham is the master distiller at Glenmorangie.
Oh, he's got to know something about it.
So he's got to have a little bit of information that he can impart to us. So.
Glenmorangie, by the way, delicious.
Yes, we've had Glenmorangie on the show before. Yeah, in fact, I've got a little bit of Glenmorangie left at the house that I have to partake of later.
Do you keep Glenmorangie in a bottle? You should probably let him out.
But you know,
look what I did.
Prince Albert in a can. So, yes, thank you. We needed that. So here's Graham Cool's first tip for the would-be whiskey expert. Sniff before you sip.
Yes.
He says your nose knows what you want in a whiskey. Before you gulp it down, give the spirit a sniff. If you like that smell, chances are pretty good you're going to be happy with the taste as well. However, if your nose burns a bit from the alcohol, it's a good sign that you might want to add a few drops of water. Again, this is a personal taste type of thing, but as you and I have discovered, man, sometimes adding a drop or two of water really opens up the flavors.
I want to point out to anybody out there who's thinking to themselves, I would never add a drop of water to my whiskey or my expensive scotch. This is
the Grand Master Distiller at Glenmorangie Scotch.
Telling you this.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. He says also, and you and I are familiar with this as well, our good friend Chris Hart helped to steer us in this direction. A tasting glass with a tapered top will direct the scent to your nose the best and give you a good view to assess the spirit visually. If you're inclined to swirl, do it carefully, he says. Whiskey has a much higher alcohol content than wine, so you want to let it settle for a moment after the swirl, or you'll wind up with a nose full of booze. So
I also want to point out, when you take that sniff, when you put that to your nose and you inhale, you should do this with your mouth partly open as well. Inhale partially through your mouth.
Yes.
Because your taste buds are in your mouth. Like, you get that.
It circulates the flavor.
Right.
Yes.
So you get the dual assault, if you will, of getting it in your nose and in your smell, and then also the taste as well.
Here's the next tip from our friend at Glenmorangie, the master distiller. Graham.
What does he know?
He says, don't get so hung up on the age of a whiskey. He says a bottle of whiskey doesn't need to have been dredged up with the Titanic to be worth drinking. These days, he says, especially when it comes to scotch, many bottles don't even have a specific age statement printed on the label.
Called a no-age statement.
Yep.
Or NAS.
That's because Scottish law dictates that a number on the bottle has to be the age of the youngest bit of liquor in the blend. So you might have a blended whiskey, for example, that has 18 and 12-year-old base spirits with just a bit of a 3-year-old, but the bottle would have to be a little 3-year-old. So that's one of the reasons for the no-age statement, is they want you to basically examine it, taste it, sample it for what it is, not for the year on the bottle.
Yeah, I also want to interject here. Don't forget, whiskey is for drinking. Drink it. Enjoy it.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Sitting around talking about how old it is or talking about how good it should be, that's fine. You're not drinking the label. You're drinking the liquid.
That's exactly what Graham says here. He says connoisseurs may always wax rhapsodic about super old rare spirits.
Wow, he put that way better than I did.
6 to 12 years should be plenty of time to develop great flavor if a distillery is using quality. He says the only thing to keep in mind about age is that if you're tasting multiple whiskeys in a flight, always go youngest and lightest to oldest and darkest if you're doing a flight of whiskeys. So there you go.
Right, and that's so your palate can handle the complexities later. If you have something super complex right up front, it's hard to take anything that has less complexity after that. Think of it like eating a whatchamacallit bar and then taking a sip of Dr. Pepper. That Dr. Pepper tastes like Perrier.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you can't taste anything but
the
caramel
water. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He also suggests learn some key vocabulary. He says, and I thought this is really good, he says, if you think whiskey tastes like unicorn tears, go ahead and say so. But if you find yourself drawing a blank to describe the flavors, he says, here's some adjectives that come up a lot. Creamy, oaky, herbal, peaty, smoky, and peppery. Says you might hear a spirit described as austere, it's a simple, straightforward kind of flavor, versus rich, one that's more complex with layered qualities.
I prefer to say haughty.
Thicker in mouthfeel. That's good.
This is very haughty.
If the scent or taste of the spirit you're trying really makes you wince with alcohol, it's described as ethanolic. And that's not always a bad thing, he says. So
No, but that's a time to, guess what? Add a couple drops of
a
water.
couple of drops of water, especially if it's a little overwhelming to you. Finally, he says, have fun with it. He says, nobody's here to be the whiskey police. Just don't get too serious. Says it's whiskey, not an exam. It can take years to develop a sophisticated palate, but if you're not angling for as a pro distiller, you really just want to kind of identify what you enjoy and drink that.
Yeah.
And if you prefer your single malt with a splash of water or even an ice cube, go for it. Even Coke, if that's your thing, although he says you don't really need a proper single malt if that's what you're dealing with.
Right. And the reason for that is not to be snobby about the Coke, but what happens is Coke has such a big flavor that if you're pouring in a really nice, expensive single malt scotch,
right,
you're not tasting the subtleties of that scotch. Now,
exactly.
There's a certain degree of better ingredients make better pizza.
Right.
Did I say that?
Yes, you did.
Sorry. Anyway, you
Thank
get the
you, Papa.
idea. Sorry, we probably owe Papa John's for that. But the
Or-
bottom line
or
is...
they owe us, depending.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I like the way you think. So but the bottom line is this. You can use way better whiskey than your standard well whiskey to make your whiskey and Coke.
Right.
But there's a cutoff point where you get diminished. At some point in time, your whiskey's so good that you don't get to taste how good it is because you're pouring Coke
right.
in it.
That's absolutely right. And despite the fact that at bars and restaurants, they will charge you a lot extra for this, the same is true with tequila and a margarita.
Exactly, very much so.
You don't need the extra añejo for your margarita. Sometimes an añejo would be nice in a margarita, but most of the time a silver will do just as well.
I default Padron a lot of times because I know most places have it, and it's going to make a good margarita.
And the silver makes a great margarita.
Yes.
I highly recommend, in fact, I just bought a bottle of this week. I highly recommend Pura Vida Silver as a great margarita.
I just read my Pura Vida, by the way.
And by the way,
we need to get Mr. Skloss back on.
Well, we do, and largely to talk about the tequila shortage. And
Also because I just ran out of my Pura Vida.
I believe you did. You did.
But yeah, there's that whole...
the whole tequila shortage thing.
Agave shortage.
Might be good to talk about as well.
Oh, you were milking it.
Yeah, I dragged that one out. Well, what's interesting, Ian, is that as I was opening this, immediately the senses of my nostrils were assaulted by the Reverend, the Belgian-Style Quadrupel Ale from Avery Brewing. Proudly say is not just for Sundays. And so we're going to be pouring a little bit of this and tasting it in our few remaining moments on the show. And I have to say, I think you're going to be very excited based on what I smelled so far. I think you're going to be very excited. Let me pass that over to Adam. On the nose, wow.
Bread.
Wow, bread. And very yeasty and malty. This is, by the way, 10% alcohol by volume.
This smells like delicious, wonderful bread right out of the oven, like dark bread.
10% alcohol by volume, or as they say, it's the Uber percent.
Here in Texas, if you if you ever go to Outback Steakhouse,
yes,
they have that Shinerbach beer bread.
Yes.
This
that's
smells,
really good. That's really good. I've had that
It's
before.
delicious.
Yeah.
It's like oddly good. This smells like that kind of bread. Like this
It's
is like
very yeasty and like it just came out of the oven with yeasty bread smell, right? I haven't drunk this yet. I'm still just like
this has
getting the
very little carbonation to it.
Yeah, well, that's not surprising.
I love that. This has notes of date to it, the dark fruit kind of dates. It has maybe a little bit of pear, like the very pulpy, overripe pear kind of flavor going on in there. It has...
You're right. It is not very carbonated at all. And interestingly enough, some of the higher ABV beers that we've had on Ritos have been very carbonated. And this is an interesting trip back the other way.
This tastes like dark, malty banana bread with some pear and some date and some. This is exactly what I like in a beer.
Yeah, I
love this.
find myself, and I'm not surprised because this is just. When I taste this, I think, "Wow, this is Ian in a can." Is what this is.
This is what I actually taste like.
Yes, I would not be surprised. But I will tell you that I do want a little more carbonation. If this were slightly more, I think I would like it more.
See,
but that's
I'm
probably
the
because
guy,
I'm an amateur when it comes to.
I'm the guy. If I walk into a place, a beer specialty place, and they have cask beer. Now, if you've ever walked in and gotten cask beer, you know that they draw it from a cask. It's
Yes.
It's not carbonated. They don't just take it out of a tap. They actually have to draw it. It's a pump that pulls it out of a cask because it's not carbonated enough to make it vomit itself from the tap. So, I actually really enjoy those low carb, high ABV, big giant body beers, and this to me tastes like that. Like the oak finish.
Yes.
There's such an oaky dryness that happens like right at the back corners of the tongue. It's like having a super dry wine finish almost, but with that date and pear and. Like all those flavors we just talked about, banana. There's a lot of banana in there. Banana isn't like annoyingly, cloyingly sweet either.
To close the show, I'd like to read you what it says here on the can.
Please
because
do.
I'm a big fan of actually when breweries and distilleries, for that matter, will write very creatively on their can or bottle of their product. So here's what it says. It says, brewed and canned by Avery Brewing Company, Boulder. Created by God, feared by Satan, loved by all. Reverend Luther Tucker. The Reverend is a divinely complex and beautifully layered creation with hints of dark cherries, currants, and molasses, complemented by an underlying spiciness and a smooth 10% alcohol by volume. Brewed with Rocky Mountain water, malted barley, imported Belgian specialty malted barley, dark Belgian candy sugar, hops, and Belgian yeast.
Man, that is delicious.
If that doesn't sound like
you have
you,
the rest of the 6-pack you're going to lay on me, by the way?
you know what? I would love to do that. I actually just bought one.
Oh.
But you know where to find it. It's the Reverend Belgian-Style Quadrupel Ale, and I will give a shout-out to Specs. That's where I found this.
Good job, Avery, by the way. That is
Avery.
Fantastic.
These guys. And interestingly enough, we've had Avery on the show a couple times, several months, but those have typically been bombers.
Yeah.
And this one's available in 12-ounce cans.
I'm a fan of the can.
Yeah, I know you are. And you're a fan of the Avery and a fan of the Belgian Quadruple Ale. I'm a fan of so much that we've had on the show, but I have to say this has been one of the most unusual tasting shows we've done in a long time.
Our flavors were all over the board today.
Which I think is a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Well, we want to thank all of you for being with us for show number 82. Here's the way it's going to go down from here.
We've made it to 82 episodes.
82 shows, my friend. Here's the way it's going to go down from here. We will take a break next week. There will not be a show next Thursday. However,
sad Ian.
2 weeks from today, Happy Ian will be in Los Angeles, California.
Happy Ian.
Yes, and we'll be I don't know yet where we're coming to you live from, but we will be live from some sort of interesting location in Los Angeles where hopefully it will be legal for us to smoke and drink, or smoke and toast, as the case may be. We'll be talking about some great California-based beers or spirits, or maybe in a great California
I want us to do our
lounge
show
or something. Yes,
like on the top of a building that has big, giant neon signs. It's bigger than us, and I want us to have Kurt Russell there.
I want the part of me to be played by Kurt Russell. That would be great. The part of Cruz Until would be played by Kurt Russell.
Did I just go a little Escape from L.A.?
With a patch on his eye. Have a great week, my
Snake
friends.
Plissken.
We have loved bringing you this edition, number 82, of Smoking and Toasting, brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Thanks to Adam on the Wheels of Steel and somebody who actually knew what kombucha was. Have a wonderful week, and cheers. Peace out.
Cheers.
Interrupting all programs.
Thanks, everybody on Facebook Live. Remember, share us around. That's right. The more you share, the more people see. Love that. Also,
seen.
if you text me or comment on it, I will actually, talk about you on the show.
As we have shown.
Yes.
And we're clear on Facebook?
Well, yeah, it's just a recording.